right. Let's get it 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 right. You already know what it is, man. It's your boy Dealatofficial. And this is No Filters. Always appreciate you hitting that like button for me. Subscribing to the channel so you don't miss an episode, and sharing this with the world. And of course, family, when you come in, get comfortable. Get you something to eat. Get you something to drink. Get you something to smoke if that's what you do. Because you see the title, fam. Let's get into this here.
In the last calendar year since the Trump administration has returned to the White House, Trump's base has been really split down the middle and has really been giving him a lot of pushback on a plethora of different topics, including economic administration in America, foreign policy, and who and how much money we should send to other nations. And then there's been the Epstein files. Everyone from Pam Bundy, FBI Director Kash Patel, and even Trump himself marketed and campaigned themselves on championing anyone who believed in releasing those files. And we know the rest. We know the history of what's been happening over the past year. It's almost as if the entire administration has been gaslighting its own base and the American people for wanting exactly what they campaigned on, releasing the files. You even have Dan Bongino stepping down from the Trump administration, returning back to podcasting just to attack, gaslight, and insult the same base that he was telling just a year ago to not leave the Epstein files alone. No matter what you do, don't stop asking questions. We all know what happened to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk had finally come around and was saying what's going on with the Epstein situation. The Epstein files should be released. And it wasn't until just the past couple of weeks, the files were released, but with more than 90% of the files redacted, with not only the victims' names being redacted, but some of the perpetrators. It's been proven that some of the perpetrators' names were also redacted in the files. And this is after they told us there were no files to begin with. Well, it's hit a completely different level. There is a decorated former Iraq war veteran by the name of Sascha Riley. And I don't know how I never seen this. The audio files just released, but the Substack that we're going to read in this video has been out since last year, late last year, but it's just now getting the attention of many of us content creators. This war veteran, who is still, by the way, fairly young, is making some of the most horrifying allegations that you'll ever hear in your life, to the point where I don't even know if this will be allowed on YouTube. I'm going to try my best to edit it and get it to where this can be shown on YouTube. If not, it will be on Patreon for free for everybody to listen to. This war veteran is alleging that Supreme Court Judge Clarence Thomas, Senator Lindsey Graham, President Donald Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein all engaged in a child trafficking ring that involved children being violated and exploited all over this country. I will include the link in the description to the original video that a couple of my supporters sent to me, or you can find the unedited audio file. Unfortunately, to my understanding, there is no video to go along with this. But as always, what's most important are the accusations that are being made here. So without further ado, we're gonna go and read some of the Substack that was posted, I believe, in November of last year. And then we're going to transition to the audio files. This is called Don't Worry, Boys Are Hard to Find, part 1 of 2, and you'll understand why the title of this Substack is just this. And again, it's horrifying. And the author of this Substack is a woman by the name of Lisa Noel Volding. And yes, it was posted on November 23rd, 2025. So essentially about 2.5 months ago, if that. It starts off with a Bible quote or a Bible verse, Luke chapter 12, verses 2 through 3. However, nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the housetops. Publisher's note: These briefings contain first-hand accounts of extreme child torture and unalivings conducted within the Trump, Epstein, and associated criminal enterprises over the course of several decades. This briefing is part 1 of 2. It includes 6, interesting number there, unedited audio recordings. I recorded the audio myself. The master files remain in my custody. Copies of these recordings and supporting documentation have been securely distributed to police and to trusted allies in several countries. Part 2 maps selected incidents to supporting evidence. I will publish additional information at my discretion. I decided to publish these accounts in the public interest. Investigations are ongoing. During the years SR, or Sascha Riley, was within the Trump-Epstein ring, he was forced to perform inappropriate acts during the filming of several child pornography films, including a snuff film. He recalls at least 10 to 12 such films. During the snuff film shoot, SR saw a girl shot during filming. After another film shoot, a girl child was taken to another room. SR recalls hearing gunshots. He said that when he heard the gunshots, he was scared. He said that another perpetrator still in the room with him, sensing his fear, said, "Don't worry, boys are hard to find." These films were produced within the Trump-Epstein ring. It says, summary, I met Sascha Riley, a decorated Iraq war veteran, during the course of my work. I realized he needed help. I offered to help. I helped. I first spoke with him by phone and recorded his initial victim testimony during July 19 through 24, 2025. His testimony is a window into the systemic torture and of impoverished children under the ages of 13, for profit and sport within the Trump, Epstein, and associated criminal enterprises. Sacha was adopted during 1977 for the purposes of by William Kyle Riley, who is a family member of Sacha's. Sacha was trafficked by UKR within the Trump Epstein ring from about 9 to 13 years old. Prior to within the Trump Epstein ring, Sacha was to relatives from about the age of 6 years old. WKR worked as a pilot for Trump and conspirators within the Trump, Epstein, and associated criminal enterprises. WKR hunted victims, transported clients and victims on airplanes and helicopters, and silenced victims, including Bob. And WKR and his father, Paul, worked within the Dixie Mafia. Sacha is one of the only survivors from during those years. Perpetrators Sacha is willing to testify against include Donald J. Trump, Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, Lindsey Graham, and Clarence Thomas. Please see audio recordings A through F and part 2 section, a bullet of case background for more detail. I told Sacha I would publish audio of our conversation unedited and unredacted. And so I am, for myself, for Sacha, and for his friends Samantha and Patricia and Sarah, all of whom died. And for the rest of the victims buried on all the farms, the ranches, the patches of wilderness across the good, sweet earth. And for the rest of the innocent. The evidence is ample. Pornography films, videos, CPS reports, FBI reports on WKR, and a military report involving the court material of a fellow soldier found with child pornography depicting Sacha and one of the victims, Samantha, a decade earlier. Much of the evidence has been suppressed. Some is obtainable by FOIA request and by investigator request. But what must be understood is that the corroborative evidence is supplemental.
Hit that like button, double tap that screen. You here with your boy Dilla T and my fam. You know this is No Filters. Hit that like button, double tap that screen right now and become a member today. It's free. You want to sponsor? Join. Regardless, hit that like button right now. You need to know what's going on here. Epstein files, and this one right here is real cooking.
Then you have the audio.
This one cooking. This boy right here said
Then you have the audio.
This boy said that he was around them folk when they was doing what they was doing to them folk. You heard me? And that man said he can break it down. He got details. He got receipts. That boy got bags to put his groceries in. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. About to get real. We got the cooking here right now. You hear me? You see the super chat. You see the cash out. It's all love. Let's go.
I don't even know how many times I was filmed, but I can tell you that some of them are extraordinarily horrible. I can give you one instance where they were filming us. It was me and a girl that I knew that I had been trafficked with in other venues. And while we were filming, they came in and shot her in the head and killed her, obviously.
Was that the runaway?
That was another girl. I can't even remember her name. The runaway was tortured to death in a duplex in Enterprise, Alabama.
Sascha Riley is a name that I was unfamiliar with a few days ago, but now once I've learned his story and I've heard him speak, it is a name I will never forget. Sacha is a U.S. Army veteran, a decorated former soldier who has been publicly claiming recently that Donald Trump, amongst others, including Senator Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court judge, Sacha is claiming that these men were part of the trafficking ring that his own relative forced him into at a young age. Sacha is claiming that these men were present when children were murdered. He's claiming that there were loads and loads of CSAM films and materials produced with extremely young children, sometimes in the presence of men like Trump and Clarence Thomas and others. He's claiming that these children's bodies are buried on farms, on ranches, all across America and the world. And he is truly making some incredibly disturbing and bizarre claims. Today, we're going to examine the Sascha Riley story as it's developing, because this is becoming a story that is much bigger than a simple news report or a YouTube video. This is becoming something that could fundamentally reshape the Epstein investigation as we know it. I'm Colin Brown. Welcome to the show. Yeah, this is some really, really heavy stuff, so I want to give you a viewer and listener discretion before we hop in. This is indescribably dark. As I've stated already at the top of this is a developing story. I first heard this story yesterday and started deep diving, and I've never seen or heard anything in relation to Trump and Epstein and all of that quite like this. Now, I know that there are going to be the typical people that say that I am nothing more than a partisan hack and I just don't like the president and blah, blah, blah. This is not about politics, once again. Yes, I dislike his politics, clearly. I've stated that, but I tend to keep my actual political beliefs out of the show. I pick no favorites. I don't only target Republicans. I have targeted plenty of Democrats and leftists and liberals, leftists, I should have said, and liberals. But Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America, and he was 100% a part of Epstein's machine. So I cannot, in good conscience and good faith, talk endlessly about these predator rings, which I've been doing for years at this point, without leveling criticism at the current administration, who are trying their hardest to cover this shit up. If you actually don't think that they're trying to fucking cover this up at this point, I don't know what the is wrong with you. You should be angry, you should be pissed, you should be disturbed, and you should have already lost all faith in American justice and the American political system. I don't care what side you're on. I don't care where your politics fall. I don't care where you are on the spectrum of leftist to right-winger. I don't care. We're not talking about the nuances of American politics right now. We are talking about allegations made against multiple people by an alleged victim. The cover-up is real. The story is realer than real. And a lot of people, including myself, have been talking about this story for years and years now. Years. I was talking about Epstein during Biden's presidency and accusing the administration of a cover-up. So people who say that I'm only doing this and why did the Democrats, I agree with you. I fully agree that they should have done something, but it's because they're both in it. If you think your side's not in the Epstein thing, you are wrong. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, centrist, I don't care. They're all embroiled in this scandal. They were all on the island. They were all on the plane. They're all in the records. That's why we will never see full transparency. I've been studying these rings for a long time. You guys know, I've filmed many documentaries about these rings. I visited the Elms Guest House in London. I've spoken with survivors. I did a whole documentary about that cover-up in England. I did the same in Belgium, where we visited places like Marc Dutroux house and Marc Dutroux' former murder shack, and I've spoken with people involved, and and I've touched on Mark Dutroux. Apart from YouTube and the podcast, I, for the last 2 years now, have fully self-funded and self-produced 2 different productions about predator rings that operated on American soil, one in the late 1980s and one in the 70s. I can talk about the second one, which is the Frank Sheldon ring in North Fox Island. So I know the intricacies of these stories. I've worked with victims. I've sat with victims face to face in the same room. I've cried with victims. I have a token from a victim that he gave to me that I have on my car keys at all times because of our conversation and the bond that we had. So this shit really matters to me. This isn't just a piece of content, a story. This is a fundamental part of my DNA. And I will tell you that in this story, you're going to see elements of other accounts that we've heard from survivors and victims that were victimized by these rings. The stories sound so similar. These stories could be coming from any victim. They could be coming from Bill from North Fox Island, who was trafficked by Frank Sheldon. They could be coming from Annika Lucas, who was involved at times in the ring that was run by Mark Dutroux and operated in the chateaus in Belgium and France and Europe in the 70s, 80s, 90s. They could be coming from anybody. But these things are real. No matter if you don't want to believe it, you think, there's no way that this is possible. This is just some fringe theory. This stuff is real, and they're counting on people that attack individuals like myself to help them continue on children. They're counting on people to watch a video like this and say that I'm crazy and try to pick apart the video. So if you're doing that sort of a thing and you're just discounting everything just because you simply don't want to believe that it's true, you're part of the problem. You're helping the problem. So yeah, just a little bit of a rant, because over the years I've had tons of people say that I do this for money, which is not true, because most of my videos, I'm sure this video will be fully demonetized on YouTube or age restricted. I've been one strike away from being banned on TikTok. I've also heard people say that I love predators, is what we're going to call them today, and there must be one because I talk about them so much. But if you've said that shit, you're a evil person, and you know that you are, because you're literally just protecting these people. Why go out of your way to protect people who don't know that you exist, who don't care that you exist? Most of the people running these things are very powerful, very rich and wealthy individuals. They don't care about you. They don't know who you are. Why defend them? Why? Now, if something's obviously false, I'm going to tell you this is false. This theory's been debunked. But when you have victim testimony, like in today's story, you can't exactly debunk it nor confirm it. So before we get into this, and let's just get into this, I want to state that this is all alleged. Everything that you're about to hear so far is alleged. Now, according to this testimony and these stories, Sascha Riley and Lisa Noel Volding, who helped bring the story to light, they've approached the FBI and the DOJ, and they've had meetings with officials already about sharing this story and testifying, but they've heard nothing. So this isn't just a random post that I'm covering. This is becoming very big news, and it all starts, I'm just going to go through it on my computer today, on this Substack. So a Substack is like a newsletter or a kind of like a news influenced social media platform where people can post newsletters and news stories. And I'm going to read you today just some of the basic text directly from this Substack, so you know that I'm not adding anything, that I'm not manipulating this to make you think one way or the other. I'm always very open with my resources, by the way, and you can check every single video. I have a resources document where you can see the dozens, if not hundreds at times, of links and books and newspaper articles where information for the show is gathered from. Yeah, this is coming from the Substack Outlaws of Chivalry. Lisa Noel Volding is the one who conducted these interviews with Sacha and started this whole thing off. So she's got a Bible verse here, Luke 12:2-3. However, nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the housetops. So here we have a publisher's note from Lisa. These briefings contain firsthand accounts of extreme child trafficking, torture, and murder conducted within the Trump, Epstein, and associated criminal enterprises over the course of several decades. This briefing is part 1 of 2. It includes 6 unedited audio recordings. I recorded the audio myself. The master files remain in my custody. Copies of these recordings and supporting documentation have been securely distributed to police and to trusted allies in several countries. Part 2 maps selected incidents to supporting evidence. I will publish additional information at my discretion. I decided to publish these accounts in the public interest. Investigations are ongoing. During the years Sascha Riley was trafficked within the Trump/Epstein ring, he was forced to perform acts during the filming of several child films, including a snuff film. He recalls at least 10 to 12 such films. During the snuff film shoot, Sascha Riley saw a girl child shot and killed during filming. After another film shoot, a girl child was taken to another room. Sascha Riley recalls hearing gunshots. He said that when he heard the gunshots, he was scared. He said that another perpetrator still in the room with him, sensing his fear, said, "Don't worry, boys are hard to find." The films were produced within the Trump/Epstein ring. So this was initially published on November 23rd, 2025, but it's just being discovered now by individuals and kind of the story's blowing up. And I was told to check this out, and immediately after reading through this, I was shocked to my core. Not surprised, because I've been saying this for a very long time that these things have happened definitely within the Epstein ring, but a lot of people don't want to believe that this stuff was happening. And this ties into some of the stuff that we've learned about in recent weeks, according to FBI tipsters, with those documents that the DOJ, FBI have been releasing. Like, for example, the person who testified that a 13-year-old who was pregnant had a child, gave birth to a child on Lake Michigan. Donald Trump was present, according to this tip. This is alleged. And that baby was then murdered and disposed of in the lake. So that's coming from the DOJ database on Epstein. And by the way, you want to talk about the cover-up. What the is going on with that shit right now? The Epstein Transparency Act stated that in December, they were supposed to release all files and materials related to the investigation into 13-year-old who was pregnant, had a child, gave birth to a child on Lake Michigan. Donald Trump was present, according to this tip. This is alleged. And that baby was then murdered and disposed of in the lake. So that's coming from the DOJ database on Epstein. And by the way, you want to talk about the cover-up. What the weeks, according to FBI tipsters, with those documents that the DOJ, FBI have been releasing. Like, for example, the person who testified that a 13-year-old who was pregnant had a child, gave birth to a child on Lake Michigan. Donald Trump was present, according to this tip. This is alleged. And that baby was then murdered and disposed of in the lake. So that's coming from the DOJ database on Epstein. And by the way, you want to talk about the cover-up. What the is going on with that shit right now? The Epstein Transparency Act stated that in December, they were supposed to release all files and materials related to the investigation into Epstein. By December, it is now January 12th. It's been close to a month since we've received our last file drop relating to Epstein, and we've only received about 1-2% of the total files. There's hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes of files, and we've only received a couple gigabytes. So they're clearly hiding stuff, they're covering stuff up, they're going through the files, they're scrubbing stuff, they're deleting documents, they're burning and shredding paperwork. Clearly we know that that's going on right now, but it shocks me that more people in the mainstream media are not knocking on the door. More congressional officials are not demanding the release of these files, because it was a big thing. We saw the pomp and circumstance of them saying, release the files, we need it now. And Ro Khanna was like, yeah, we need to get these files out, and then silence. But if you'll realize, right when the files are supposed to be coming out, and it's a slow news week, and everyone's going to be talking about Epstein because they're in violation of the law. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, all of them are breaking the law every second of every hour of every day, that these files are not fully released. All of a sudden there is this Somali scandal in Minnesota that a right-wing guy who has ties to foreign countries posits and posts online, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about that. And then we had the tragic, horrific ICE murder that happened in Minneapolis, and now it's all anybody can talk about, and there's protests. But the Epstein story has been completely forgotten, especially by legacy mainstream media. It's out for now. It will come back eventually. It will come back. But it's interesting because last summer, when Elon Musk tweeted that Trump is all over the Epstein files, if you remember that little dispute they had, almost immediately Trump, on a whim, decided to send ICE into Los Angeles and National Guard, and it became this huge thing, and there were riots and protests, and it completely took over the news cycle almost immediately. And those comments that Elon made against Trump were just cycled out and forgotten. So we saw a similar thing that happened when Trump was mentioned by Elon about him being in the Epstein files. Suddenly there's ICE in Los Angeles and huge protests and violence. Now the Epstein files are supposed to come out, and we see ICE in Minneapolis, and there's a murder and violence and riots, not riots, I should say, protests, peaceful protests that have been going on. I just find it curious. If you don't think that there's a pattern there, once again, I don't know what to tell you. It's almost like the paranormal and the spiritual. It's pattern recognition. It's recognizing these patterns that unlock doors. You hold the key, but you must use the key to open the door. I can't force you to believe in what I'm saying, but almost every time that there's something huge relating to Epstein, something else suddenly happens afterwards. For example, when they released that document about Epstein being innocent, the DOJ and the FBI, it was in the middle of the Kerrville floods that happened here in Texas last summer. Lots of young girls dead in a flood, missing their bodies. It was all over national news. And then in the middle of all of that, the FBI DOJ tried to sneak in that little letter about Epstein being innocent and no investigation being needed. Now, according to the Substack and author Lisa, as you can see, a summary. I met Sascha Riley, SR, a decorated Iraq war veteran. During the course of my work, I realized he needed help. I offered to help. I first spoke with him by phone and recorded his initial victim testimony during July 19th to 24th, 2025. His testimony is a window into the systemic torture and murder of impoverished children under the age of 13 for profit and sport within the Trump, Epstein, and associated criminal enterprises. Sacha was adopted during 1977 for the purposes of trafficking by William Kyle Riley, WKR. Sacha was trafficked by WKR within the Trump/Epstein ring from about 9 to 13 years old. Prior to trafficking within the Trump/Epstein ring, Sacha was trafficked to relatives from around the age of 6 years old. WKR worked as a pilot and trafficker for Trump and conspirators within the Trump/Epstein and associated criminal enterprises. So, real quick interruption. As a part of my upcoming docuseries that we've been working on, I worked with a group of female survivors of CSA and CSAM production in Germany. I spent about 2 days with them, getting to know these extremely powerful women who had been trafficked and had escaped horrific things when they were younger. I spoke at length to a woman who runs this organization. They help other young children and teenagers get out of situations like that. She had been trafficked by her own family members and brought into this world by her family. It was her own parents that ended up in her, and then they got her involved with this ring of perpetrators. And in her case, she would literally be told by her parents, there's someone at your bedroom window, and these predators would knock on this young child's window, and she would crawl out and be taken by these predators. She watched an adult murdered right in front of her that they were videotaping and taking photographs of. I'm hearing this from her mouth as she's telling these stories to us, saying that she was forced to consume parts of this body afterwards, that she went to the police. Her parents were involved in this as well. They were the ones that got her into this, and nothing was ever done. I also interviewed a guy in Amsterdam as a part of the series who was trafficked by his grandfather, who was eventually arrested for predatory behavior with children. And so it's a very common thread throughout all these stories that trafficking starts with family members. It's not guys in a white van that abduct children off the streets. And that goes for all trafficking of all people. I'm not even just talking about young children who are trafficked. Oftentimes, even teenagers or fully grown adult women who are forced into trafficking, it's through a grooming process, and it's people they trust and they think that they love, who they think love them back or are looking out for their best interests, but they ensnare these individuals and work them into this world slowly because they're evil people. So it's not the white van and the creepy guy with the big glasses and the bowl of candy. It's the grandparents, the mothers and fathers, the boyfriends, the girlfriends. All these different people can get children and adults into trafficking, and we're seeing this here with this story about Sasha's adopted father. Now, according back to the document, Sasha's adopted father, WKR, hunted victims, trafficked victims, transported clients and victims on airplanes and helicopters, and silenced victims, including by murder. And WKR and his father, Paul, worked within the Dixie Mafia. The Dixie Mafia is a famous Southern mafia branch. We could talk about that all day, but they're an established organization that concrete exists in the real world. There have been lots of prosecutions of Dixie Mafia members and murders attributed to them. Sasha is one of the only trafficking survivors from during those years. Perpetrators Sasha is willing to testify against include Donald J. Trump, Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, Lindsey Graham, and Clarence Thomas. Please see audio recordings A through F and Part 2 section, a bullet of case background, for more detail. I told Sasha I would publish audio of our conversations unedited and unredacted, and so I am, for myself, for Sasha, and for his friends Samantha and Patricia and Sarah, all of whom died, and for the rest of the victims buried on all the farms, the ranches, the patches of wilderness across the good sweet earth, and for the rest of the innocent. Veritas Vincent, Lucitia in Eternum.
Wow.
The evidence is ample.
Ruth.
Films, videos, CPS reports, FBI reports on WKR, Sasha's adopted father, and a military report involving the court-martial of a fellow soldier found with child depicting Sasha and one of the murder victims, Samantha, a decade earlier. Much of the evidence has been suppressed. Some is obtainable by FOIA request and by investigator request. But what must be understood is that the corroborative evidence is supplemental. The corroborative evidence supports the truthful testimony, and truthful testimony of what was seen and heard and experienced is not only evidence, but among the most important evidence. And while truthful testimony and supporting evidence is important in evidence of truth, the truth itself is evidence, essential evidence, primary evidence, fos prima, and the fraudulent systems that suppress the truth and oppress the innocent will no longer stand. The truth cannot be hidden by falsehoods. Whether the falsehoods are told inadvertently or intentionally by the well-minded misled, or by the bleeding false prophets, bleeding falsehoods, and insidious insinuations of truth, such as insinuations about victim credibility. In a truly just system of justice, victim credibility must never, ever be considered a criteria or prerequisite or requisite of justice at all. A system where the credibility of the victim is considered a criteria or requisite or prerequisite for pursuing justice is a fallacy. I agree with that. A system where the victim's credibility is demonized instead of the perpetrator's guilt rightly determined and punished in respect to and in honor of the victim is demonic. I state again, a system where the victim's credibility is demonized is demonic. Please listen to the testimony to discern the truth yourselves. We've got a childhood picture, according to her, showing Sascha Riley, and then a photo of Sasha from his military days. I believe this would be from in Iraq. So then you have the audio files. You can see here there's an hour and 20 minutes of testimony, an hour and 15 minutes, 23 minutes, 22 minutes of testimony, 36 minutes of testimony, 16 minutes of testimony. Now I'm going to do additional videos breaking down the audio, but I just haven't had the time to listen through all this stuff yet, but I will in the next few days, and I'll give you some snippets. Regardless, I'm going to play you a couple clips now. Just check it out. You can hear Sasha talking and how genuine he comes across.
So I just want to clarify in terms of date, July 18th, 2025, my full name, Lisa Noel Volding. And Riley, you want to state your name and any other names?
William. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. My name is William Sascha Riley. I was born Manuel Sascha Bartels.
Okay.
But my legal name is William Sascha Riley at this time.
Okay. In terms of what my approach, really what I wanted to do is like to just really like a thorough discussion. You tell me everything that you've been wanting to say. And
Okay.
I'll ask some questions, recording with an eye to your testimony, getting your testimony of what you
Okay.
experienced, what you suffered, and what you were witness to.
I am for whatever puts a light on this, because in my mind, the powers that be are already aware of my position on it and aware that I have spoken up. And,
Yeah.
you know, the more light that is shed on there, I don't think that I'm incurring more risk, except for some maybe lunatic that wants to be a soldier for Donald Trump, because they are a little crazy. They're a little brainwashed. But yeah, I don't mind whatever would bring a little bit more light to this, particularly this stuff. If we can get some of this stuff verified, you know. And I know that me speaking up is one thing, but then the verification process, you know, is important too. And I have read about software where, you know, facial recognition software that taps into the banks of known cataloged child. So if the films that they had me make can be verified. You know, it's not something that I can go online, but I am confident that it's there, because somebody that I served with in the Army got put out of the Army for child. My chain of command talked to me and they said, hey, you know, some of these images, some of the films or whatever that he had look just like you. And that was the first time I think I had ever talked to anybody about having done those films. And I told them, yes, when I was a child, I had to do those things.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk a little bit more about that circumstance. Like, so you were in the Army. What years were you in the Army then?
This would have been my second time in the Army. I rejoined in, 2002.
Yeah.
And I retired in 2016. I was in from 91 to 98 as well. So I did a little over 21 years. But the time frame that they pulled me into the office and discussed that would have been around 2008, 2009 time frame. It was in garrison, so it was between deployments.
Yeah.
So around that time is when they talked to me. And yeah, I can remember telling them that I knew it was out there was nothing I could do about it, and thinking that there was really no way to go about, you know, anything at that point. You know, I didn't know what I could do about it, if anything.
Yeah. So it was from our emails, it was one of the fellow soldiers that was caught with a bunch of child, and then your commanding officer pulled you into the office to go through and said they'd seen you in the films.
I did not look at any of the films. All they said was, hey, we had to look at some of this stuff, and one of those people looks just like you. And that's the first time that I had, I think, ever really spoken about it. And I said, yes, you know, those are probably me. But I did not personally see them. They described something that I knew that I had been a part of.
Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Here's what it was.
Yeah.
They pulled me in, I can remember First Sergeant Bayless was kind of red-faced, and he said, have you ever made a movie with a black girl? And you know, that obviously was, I mean, I'm not a movie star, so obviously that's a very odd question, and I knew exactly what he was talking about when he said that.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yes. So he said, okay, well, we have found some images that are of a sexually explicit nature on another soldier's computer, I think, and they look like you. And I said, well, they are me. So he said, and you look underage. I think from that was part of their investigation to confirm that the images of the participants in these films were underage. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that was just a secondary verification that, I was only 12 or 13 at the time of that film, maybe even 11. So, I mean, obviously I'm not an adult, and even when I was an adult at 18 or 19, I still looked young. So obviously at 11, 12, of whatever I was in that film, I would not have looked like a mature, an adult, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it was more, I think, for confirmation that these images were of children. So I don't remember if he actually got court-martialed or if he just got UCMJ, which is just their lower grade of punishment, but I do know that he was chaptered out of the military over it. I think he might have had to do a little jail time, but I don't recall. I can't even recall the soldier's name that got caught with it. I just knew he was an NCO, a staff sergeant.
And was there did anyone else ever talk to you about the films again? Did they ever talk? Did they ever infer that there was any further investigation in terms to when the films were produced? Did they ask you anything about who is involved, or did they? No.
They didn't go into any legality other than the prosecution of the soldier with the images. The first time that I can recall anybody that it ever coming up, I always knew that they were, that the films, at least one or two of them were out there. I don't even know how many times I was filmed. But I can tell you that some of them are extraordinarily horrible. I can give you one instance where they were filming us. It was me and a girl that I knew that I had been trafficked with in other venues, and while we were filming, they came in and shot her in the head, so killed her, obviously. So that would be...
Was that the runaway?
That was another girl, I can't even remember her name. Yeah. The runaway was tortured to death in a duplex in Enterprise, Alabama. My parents did that, and that wasn't on film. Not her being tortured, but that was that black girl that I'm telling you about. But they went and got her because they were afraid that this was after the investigation in Tennessee, and they were afraid that they would go down for child. So they were wanting to kill her, and then they were wanting to get rid of me via an accident, but they couldn't because they had already tried to kill me several times. They had the incident in Texas involving a Chevy van. There was another incident in Texas where my dad threw me into the middle of a pool and said sink or swim, and somebody saw it and called the sheriff. So there was a police report on that. And then there was a third instance in Texas where my dad threw me down a flight of stairs, and that one fractured my skull. Now, there may have been other things that happened as well, but I remember those three were enough that they generated an investigation. There were enough things that happened in Texas that my dad moved from Texas to Tennessee, and then got in trouble in Tennessee, and then got in trouble in Tennessee, and then moved to Alabama, got in trouble in Alabama, and then we just moved one more time.
So when Samantha was killed, were all of these parties at the farm or similar locations to the farm? Where there was
it was multiple farms.
Multiple farms, and usually it was parties. So there was individuals like Trump that were flown into the parties. And
yes, and they would have like a building, a house, and they would usually have like a tent set up, and it was almost like a little, I don't want to say a fair, it wasn't that big, they didn't have rides or anything, but it was a kind of a coordinated deal, Sometimes they would have the bare knuckle fighting. That probably is how my dad got involved with these people, because, you've got boxing and stuff like that on TV, but that's really all you had back in the 70s and 80s. More the MMA type of stuff wasn't allowed. And these fights were a little more gruesome. They didn't fight to the death or anything like that, but they were bloody, and these were fights, and not just boxing. And so the rich people would pay to see that. Sometimes they'd have like a band playing, just like what you would expect at like a fair or something,
So the rich folks would get flown in, associated with Epstein, and they would pay to watch the victims fight. The victims were all underage. And would they pay to then assault the victims after the fights or during the fights? And they paid to torture the victims and and kill the victims.
But now some of the fights were adults. If they had some big old country boy and some other guy, they would pay to see that. They would also pay to watch the kids fight, and they did pay to watch me fight. I would fight other kids, and my dad was my initial trainer for me to learn how to fight. I would later go on to be a boxer, an amateur boxer, but that's how I got my start in all of that. So yes, they would have paid for that, and the experiences were different each time. There wasn't like a set thing. You never really knew what was going to happen. So you know, part of it, a lot of it just comes down to money. You know, so if they offered $5,000 to have sex with me, then you know, my dad was willing to do that. You know,
Yeah.
whatever the dollar amounts were, I don't know.
Sasha, that isn't sex. That's sexual assault. I mean, I just want to say something first. I think
Okay.
you're extremely brave, and you behave extremely strong, like a warrior. And I just want to stop and say it's important to me to say that, because a lot of folks, you know, wouldn't even survive such trauma, but you've survived, and you know, you conduct yourself with dignity and gracefully, and it's important to me to say that. I hope you know that. You know, I hope you have a sense of your own honor and chivalrousness.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I can remember some arm of law enforcement showing me video of me harming one of the people that they were filming me with. Now, I don't know how that came about, or whether they drugged me and I lost my mind, or they told me to do it. I don't know the circumstances, but I can remember being in that room and them saying, well, you did this. And it may have not even been law enforcement. It may have been, you know, like the people that were running that. But I can remember being really upset because I had no recollection of having done that. It was me in the video, and I was beating somebody, well, a girl senseless. I didn't kill her or anything like that, but I you know.
Yeah.
So, and I have a feeling, you know, this part of...
Now trip off what he just said. Hit that like button, double tap that screen right now. Listen to me, right now, listen to me. This is how you know the truth is coming out this man's mouth. Did you catch it? Type it down below right now if you caught what I just caught, that lets you further know, excuse me, that man telling the truth. Lori said she called it. What you just catch, what you just heard, they let you know that man telling the truth. Cause you just gotta let people talk, and they gonna tell on themselves. What I tell you yesterday, just keep letting somebody talk. They gonna tell on themselves. Cat in the building, just let him talk. He tell on himself. Now, this is how you know the real is extra real. After him telling on himself, he held nothing back. Trip off that. That man said they showed him video of him physically assaulting a woman and doing her dirty. And them blaming him and saying, hey, that's you did that. And he's so hurt because he like, I must have been brainwashed, drugged up, or just out my mind. Because I don't remember doing that. So now that's got to really affect you. That's why I said, hold up, we listening to this man tell a lot. He is telling a lot. Okay? But that last part, let me further know what's really real. Hit that like button, double tap that screen, let's go.
I can't prove because I only have my own experiences, but what the whole thing seems to be is that they first abuse you, then they get you on film abusing others, and now they have you trapped as well.
Yeah.
So you can't talk about the abuse that they did to you. If they want you to be a legacy victim, somebody that they can use in the future, well, then they've got to get you on tape doing monstrous things to other people as well, because now they have the leverage to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, no, and you know what? You're exactly right. That's exactly the tactic.
And I kind of wanted to discuss one other thing too. kind of theme at these parties that seem to be very very well thought out is they would have a larger party in the beginning, right? And in these larger parties, you might have, say, a couple of fights or some drug use or things that were kind of, let's say, mildly illegal. But the parties would go on for multiple days, and as the thing wound down to the smaller inner circle in the last day or last 2 days or whatever, that's when the really horrible shit happened.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the people that attended the party, possibly even people like Clarence Thomas or Lindsey Graham, may have been involved in lesser things, but then were also at the same time and place where these more horrible things happened, but they didn't necessarily participate in those more horrible things. So that seemed to be an underlying theme of, and this is just me speculating here as an adult, where they would try to get these affluent people in all of these positions of power and influence to come participate in these parties where all of these things were going on, so that if Clarence Thomas, I'll just use him, if he was there at the party, well then surely nothing, that nefarious could be going on type of situation.
Yeah.
So it seemed to be very well thought out how they kind of did things, but as the party wound down, that's when people in my position would really begin to get scared, because that's when either you're going to get assaulted and maybe really busted up, or, even watching somebody die is really horrible,
Did you see anyone else die besides Samantha and Patricia?
Yes.
Yes.
So I watched a grown man get beaten to death. He had done something that pissed off the people that were running it, and they killed it. I saw another girl, in addition to Patricia, when I was making the film with the girl that came in and shot her while we were having sex. That was some sort of snuff film.
Yeah.
And then...
Did you just hear that man? You ain't just heard that man. You can't tell me what that man just, tell me what that man just said right now. Tell me what that man just said right now. Cause I know you just heard that man. That boy said, while he choking old girl in the bed, got the choke on her, got her moving up and down on him with the choke. He got hand, look at it, hand on throat, hand on cheek, and he moving her up and down on him. And somebody come in there and bah! And she just... The man got the woman bouncing on him, and somebody come in out the side and bah! Hit her in the middle of relations. So now he right there holding her now. It's like, ah! And now he see what she thinking all over him. He can see what she thought about yesterday, what she thinking now. How she ain't got no more thoughts because her whole brain is scattered all over the bed. Tanya in the building. Yeah, Lord. So I had to stop this for a second. Mama K, where you been? Mama K in the building. That's what I'm talking about, though, because, again, that man said they was having relations and somebody offed the girl. He telling it all
in the brothel, there were 2 people that got killed. Sarah, and then a girl, I don't remember her name, she was shot and killed, and then another girl was also shot and killed.
Okay. And all of these...
Remember,
no, go ahead.
me and Samantha having to clean up. We didn't have to do anything with the body, but I can remember me and Samantha had to clean up the blood and everything from both Sarah's, which was an assisted. Samantha actually shot Sarah, but Sarah wanted her to do it. She just couldn't pull the trigger herself. So Samantha did it. I was in the room when she did it, but it wasn't a murder. Samantha didn't murder her. Sarah I can remember her just saying, I can't go to another party. I can't be here. Please, you know.
Another of the victims, I don't know if you've read about, the British woman, Sarah Ransom, was on the Epstein Island and tried to swim off the island and was willing to drown than go through another torture.
I mean, it's some horrible, horrible shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can remember the hillbillies that my dad sold me to when I was small. They were mean, but I can remember the meanest motherfuckers are those rich people. They are just demonic, Trump included.
Yeah. With the rich folks that you were sold to, that was all associated with the Epstein-Trump trafficking ring. And you said to me you thought Trump ran things with Epstein. Is that true?
Oh, yes. He was not just a client. He was one of the people that facilitated all that stuff. It was almost like, this is just my childhood brain piecing it together. It was almost as if Epstein worked for Trump. And not just Trump, but him and maybe 6 or 8 other super rich guys. So
do you remember
Epstein ran it at the behest of Trump and that circle of people. So it was just, I couldn't tell you how many people, but he was the only one that I remember that was at that level. But it wasn't that Trump was a John visiting, you know, Epstein's empire of child victims. It was Trump was in a position above Epstein. It was as if Epstein worked for Trump. Yeah. And the rest of those ultra rich guys.
Do you remember?
Like he ran that ring for them.
No, I understand. So Jeffrey was sort of presented publicly as leader of the ring, but Jeffrey was basically behaving like a general manager of the ring. And then there was 7 or 8 other individuals, such as Trump, that were actually actively running the ring.
He would give Epstein that caliber of person, because it wasn't just Epstein. Epstein had people that worked with him too on a lower level that would go like find runaways and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they got the people. I can't say that, but you know, it was this whole thing was being run as for those rich people.
Yeah. Do you have the sense that any of them were actually secretly practicing any sort of occult rituals, or were they just like rich, fiendish, fake Christians that just didn't experience a conscience?
I think it's the latter. Just rich, fake Christians. I can tell you one thing that Trump did.
Yeah.
And that I remember vividly. I was exhausted and I couldn't fight back, and he sat on my chest and would choke me until I was unconscious. And each time that he did it, he'd say, "I'm going to kill you." So, and then he would choke me until I was out. And, you know, he did that, you know, half a dozen times or however many times. And I can remember him saying, "I thought I killed you that time. I'm really going to do it this time," and then choke me again. So he would just do that over and over again until he got bored of it. So that.
Did you get the sense that he was trying to kill you, or just to torture you about the thought of killing you?
In the moment, you think you're going to die.
Yeah.
And that's the experience that he wants to see the fear in another human being's eyes that thinks that he's killing them, you know?
Yeah.
But looking back, I just think he was just torturing me. You know, I think had he wanted to kill me, he could have. You know, he could have just kept choking me until I was gone. Because I did get choked until I was unconscious. I don't know, as many as half a dozen times, maybe more.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the type of thing that he would do, or worse. You know, I believe, I wouldn't swear to this, but I believe that on that instance, they had told, my dad had told him, hey, you can't bust him up, you can't break stuff. You know, because all his CPS bullshit. So, and I want to say he was upset at the end of that too because of the bruising. You know, they didn't break bones or anything, but, you know, obviously I had bruising around my neck and different bruises on my body, and that's something else too that I'm just remembering right now as I'm talking to you. At least one instance, the school nurse got CPS involved, I believe, in both Tennessee and Alabama because of the bruises that I showed up to school with. Yeah. You know, of course, my parents just said, hey, he's clumsy, you know, he fell out of a treehouse, or whatever excuse they gave, you know. But it was looked into, but obviously nothing materialized from it.
Okay.
So, like I said, we will get to the audio clips in another episode, but moving down on the Substack, this is still Lisa writing, B, a sliver of timeline to today. She states, after I first spoke with Sascha, I selectively contacted allies, church, police, and government officials in various countries with a call to warn, to stand, to investigate. I stored copies of documents with local police and various other allies for safekeeping. I provided initial corroborative documents to individuals and offices who have sworn oaths to help the innocent, to forewarn, to help jumpstart investigations in various countries, and to provide context on the larger criminal enterprises internationally, the secretive perpetrators, the silenced victims, the missing documents, the hidden evidence, the unseen patterns between perpetrators only recently revealed. And when the FBI questionably contacted Sascha during the summer, I moved Sascha to safety out of country. Quote, among them, I spoke to folks at Senator Wyden's office and the House Oversight Committee Democrats' office. That's obviously the committee office that is handling the Epstein stuff and has been all over the news demanding the release of the Epstein files. So you would imagine if you had a victim whose story could be partially corroborated by documents, you would imagine that they would want to speak with them. But she goes on to state, I contacted the HOCDO office, that House Oversight Committee Democrats office, on September 4th, 2025, and followed up by sending documents, including Sascha's testimony, to their whistleblower account. During September 19th, 2025, Sascha and I conducted a meeting with House Oversight Committee Democrat office aides. Upon their review of my documents, we expressed our extreme concerns that Trump and conspirators were attempting to escalate criminal activity globally imminently. We also told them to swiftly obtain critical copies of evidence before the United States government shutdown. Among such evidence, copies of a circa 2010 report and attendant child material stored in the permanent records of a United States military base. The records detail the court-martial of a soldier that Sascha served with. The soldier was caught with child that included films of Sascha and one of the trafficking victims, Samantha, who was later murdered because of the film's popularity. The film was produced within the Trump/Epstein and associated enterprises several years earlier. Please see Part 2 section, Bullet of Case Background, for my overview, and audio files A through F for Sascha's description of related incidents. So I cannot find the Part 2 that they're talking about. I don't know if this has been taken down. I don't know what the deal is with the Part 2, but obviously a few things. We're going to go through a timeline after this that's incredibly disturbing, so I need you guys to bear with me because this gets so dark. Obviously, I'm keen to see the corroborating evidence. Like she states throughout this, she states that they've provided corroborating documents or corroborating pieces of evidence to investigators. She states that she and Sascha have possession of these supplemental materials that could be looked at by investigators to corroborate Sascha's accounts. I am obviously very interested in seeing some of that, and we're going to talk about some of the potential corroborating evidence that people online are pointing out in a moment. But I think it's very interesting because Sascha and Lisa here at the very end talk once again about one piece of evidence that could prove so much, which is a copy that I think they're saying that they have of a 2010 report that would detail the court-martial of a soldier that Sascha served with. And according to this report, if this is a real court-martial and a report and, a criminal record, this would show that the CSAM materials that Sascha is talking about existed. And then on top of that, investigators could go back and look at those CSAM materials if they actually investigated this and see Sascha and this girl. That's what she's saying here. If they actually were to look at this, that they keep reports of things like that and they keep evidence like that stored just in case it becomes relevant in the future. So the way I'm reading this is that basically Sascha and Lisa, the woman helping Sascha, begged authorities to actually seriously look into this and to do something. And they're saying, if you get off your ass and do something and investigate this, not only is there stone solid evidence right here, right in front of your eyes that you get access to relatively quickly, but there's so much more that could corroborate this story. But as of right now, I don't think they've taken any action on this. So I don't know what to tell you. So now we get to the timeline, which to me is the most disturbing aspect of this. So as you can see here, this is a publicly available Google Doc. There are right now, there's 88 people looking at this document. There are a number of collaborators. As you can see here, actually on the page, people are typing and adding things right now. But this document is a collaborative effort by dozens, if not hundreds of people who have gone through Sascha's audio testimony, and they've tried to water it down into a cohesive timeline of what Sascha is claiming happened to him at a young age. And so this is a collaborative effort. Keep in mind, these are all allegations, so this is all alleged, but this is what we're dealing with here. So yeah, I'm just gonna read this to you. As you can see, this document, if you're looking at it, if you're watching on YouTube, it's dedicated, it's organized by yellow highlights are indicating victim, red are indicating abuser, pink, lavender is unclear. So this is going through the individuals that we're going to talk about. First of all, I'm just going to read this to you ad verbatim. Yeah, if you want to look at this Google Doc yourself, I'm going to post a link in the description. So I'm just reporting on what they're writing from this collaborative document. Basically, there's William Sascha Riley, they, them, who is a male victim of child trafficking, one of the only living survivors. They were born Manuel Sascha Barros. Sascha was forced to make 10 to 12 CP films, or CSAM films, including a snuff film where the girl was murdered on camera and a girl being murdered right after filming. Sascha was told not to worry, he won't be killed because boys are hard to find. In addition to filming CP or CSAM, Sascha was trafficked to family members for acts and eventually to the Epstein/Trump Pred ring. Sascha describes getting assaulted as a child as going off into another place, which is consistent with psychological studies about child. Sascha witnessed multiple murders, including a grown man beaten to death. Sascha was drugged out of their mind and recalls specific incidents, but has blocked a lot of it out. They have one memory of law enforcement blackmailing them. This is what the cop outfits are for. They showed him a film where they harmed the girl they were being trafficked with. They think they were drugged. They were beating a girl. Sascha has no recollection doing it. The people running the operation used this to keep them silenced. They believe first they abuse you, then they catch you on film abusing others, and then they use that as a threat that if you tell or seek help, you will be incriminated just as much. Then there is Samantha Jackson, another victim that we're going to discuss. Samantha was a young Black American girl who was a runaway and ended up in a brothel that Sascha was eventually sent to. Samantha spoke about how the girls had been told that they would be considered as possible mistresses for the rich folks, and eventually when you are disillusioned enough that this was a facade, they would kill the girls. They essentially aged out of the system by realizing this was never going to happen. She warned Sascha, just don't kill anyone for these people because that's when they have you. Samantha was eventually tortured to death by Sascha's parents, who were scared that they would get busted for creating CP. After weeks of torture at the hands of Sascha's parents, Samantha asked Sasha to commit a mercy killing while they were locked in a storage room. Sasha choked Samantha to death on her request. Then there is an abuser, William Kyle Riley. William adopted Sasha for purposes of trafficking, worked as a pilot and trafficker for Trump & Co. William hunted victims, transported clients and victims on airplanes and helicopters, silenced victims, including by murder. Originally got involved in the Pred ring as a bare-knuckle brawler, was most likely paid to fight at the parties that were held by the elite rich folks. Participated in Tough Man contest. Sasha thinks he got involved around 1980, possibly before. Sasha thinks they should give him a plea deal in order to name some names and uncover the root of the operation. Then there's Irene Ursula Liskey Peter, who is listed as an unknown. I believe this is the name. Some of the audio files can be difficult to decipher. Irene was married to William, and was Sasha's original adopted mother. She divorced William in 1979-1980. It's unclear whether she was a perpetrator of. Then there's Mary Lynn Riley, named as an abuser and referred to as Lynn throughout Sasha's recordings. Married immediately after William's divorce, Sasha describes her, Mary, as being particularly sadistic and that she loved to torture children. Once, when Sasha's parents were offered $25,000 from Trump to assault Sasha, Mary Lynn was particularly excited about this. It is unclear which of the three interactions Sasha had with Trump this refers to. Mary Lynn died by self-unaliving in 2018. Then there's Paul Riley, another abuser, William's father, Sasha's then adopted grandfather, who worked within the Dixie Mafia. There's also a victim named here named Patricia, who was a friend of Sasha's from the brothel, was most likely adopted into a trafficking family, ran off, and still ended up in the brothel. Patricia was killed in front of Sasha as a means for torture, most likely at the request of Trump himself. Then there's another victim listed, Sarah, who was another friend of Sasha's from the brothel. Sarah was mercy killed by Samantha as per Sarah's request. She wanted to die by self-unaliving, but was scared to pull the trigger, so Samantha killed her for her. Another name is Donald Trump. Sasha describes Trump as someone who likes to destroy people physically and emotionally before or during an assault. He says Trump enjoys destroying a human to the utmost possible. He takes pleasure in the act of suffering played out in any institution he is a part of. Sasha recalls thinking that Trump wasn't just a client, but rather a facilitator with 5 to 7 other rich and powerful figureheads. Wasn't just a John visiting the island as a client. Then there's Jeffrey Epstein named here. Sasha describes Epstein as someone who worked for and wasn't the head honcho. Epstein was like the general manager and Trump was the owner. Beneath Epstein were people working for him to find runaways. Then there's Republican Representative Jim Jordan, who is listed here as an alleged. As a young man, Jim Jordan participated in an event that claimed that if you could catch and pin Sasha, you could do anything you wanted to him. Sasha said Jordan pinned him and severely beat him and assaulted him in front of 30 people. Jordan is now a member of Congress in Ohio. He has a wrestling history. We know that Jim Jordan helped allegedly to facilitate a cover-up of against minors at Ohio State. Then there's another perpetrator named Andy Biggs. Andy allegedly beat Sasha almost to death at a party where Sasha was taken from station to station to be beat and raped. Sasha recalls his dad and Andy fighting, and Andy saying something like, "Well, he said I could do whatever I wanted to him." And William, Sasha's adopted father, responding, "I didn't say you could kill him." He is now a U.S. representative for the state of Arizona. Now, in the unsure category, we have Lindsey Graham. Sasha isn't sure if he was assaulted by Lindsey Graham or if Lindsey Graham just happened to be at the parties. Sasha's dad was making fun of him for being gay and was told that many people at the party were either gay or had bisexual tendencies, and so he shouldn't be heard mocking them. There's also Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas here, named as an unknown. Similar to Lindsey, Sasha wasn't sure if Clarence Thomas was a participant or just an attendee at the parties. Sasha says Clarence stands out because he was the only black person ever at these parties. Sasha remembers when Thomas was appointed to the Supreme Court, William, Sasha's adopted father, was really excited that there was someone so high up and in a lifetime appointment that was involved in the ring. Now, Clarence Thomas has quite the history as well. He was accused of, I believe it was a woman when he was first appointed and nominated for the Supreme Court. There are also many allegations. One of the more disturbing ones that I remember reading surrounding Clarence Thomas involves him being into bestiality. So humans having sex with animals on video for people's pleasure. Clarence Thomas has
Humans having sex with animals on video for the elite's pleasure. Bad enough you abusing us mankind, but now you finna start abusing creatures, animals.
been to Bohemian Grove. We've talked about Bohemian Grove here on the show before, and Bohemian Grove is that secret society men's club, all men's club that meets amongst the California redwoods, and they burn the effigy in front of the giant owl, and it's a secret society. Clarence Thomas has been there. I have a photograph in my possession of Clarence Thomas there way before he's publicly admitted that he visited Bohemian Grove, which is crazy. But moving on to the document, Sascha also names Vladimir Putin. Sascha said the name was brought up a lot at the parties in the 1980s. He remembers them saying he was a foreigner that was very important, was spoken about at the farms and at the parties. Doesn't remember Putin ever attending the parties, but remembers people with foreign accents a lot. Not every attendee was American. There's also Bill Clinton, who was mentioned, but according to Sascha, he never saw him. So those are some of the people named in the story that we're going to talk about. Then there's the locations. So according to Sascha, parties took place at farms and ranches and lasted a few days. The setup was a large house and stations covered by party tents, almost like a fair. These were large and coordinated events where the number of attendees decreased and the depravity increased as the days went on. Day one might be bare knuckle fighting and some drug use, possibly adult action. Sometimes the fights were with children. The fighters were paid and most likely were bet on by attendees. There were drinks, drugs, live music, and socializing. Sascha said the experiences were different each time, depending on offers and attendees that victims were available. It is thought that more virtuous folks were invited to the first days so that the parties could appear more innocuous than they were, and to also blackmail these folks who were committing minor infractions, like having affairs, doing drugs, betting on fights. Sascha said the last 2 days there might be 8 to 10 adult males left and 2 to 3 children that were tortured physically and possibly murdered. They usually were correlated with a federal holiday or 3-day weekend. Now, we've heard many stories of parties like this, and it's always the same from all victims and survivors. They claim that, and you'll see what I've been working on soon, but they claim that there are parties. Like there's a party that goes on and it's normal. And maybe there's like some drug use and some minorly illegal stuff that goes on, but it's relatively normal-esque. And politicians will attend these parties, high-profile people. They'll maybe do some substances, potentially hire an escort, like I said. But then those people will clear out, and the ones that remain are then present for the after party where the real trafficking and disturbing shit goes down. I've heard that directly from the mouths of victims that I've worked with. That's not a new concept. This goes all the way back to stories I've heard from the 80s with survivors of these rings. So that to me makes perfect sense, and it's in line with everything we've ever learned about these functions. So now we get to the timeline. 1973, Sascha was born. 1976, Jeffrey Epstein was fired from the Dalton School. Interestingly, I'm going to talk about this in another video. I have an original yearbook from the Dalton School right here. This is from Dalton 1975. I got this from a guy who went to the school because I'm planning on doing my own investigation into the faculty here and looking through this book. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein is listed in this yearbook, and there's a photo of him and everything. He was a faculty member at this time. So this is an original Dalton School yearbook, and I'm going to show that in another video and show Epstein's image in the book, but that's just a side note. 1977, Sascha was adopted for the purposes of trafficking by William Kyle Riley and his wife Irene. 1977, Trump marries Ivana. Don Jr. was born. Around 1978, Sascha was trafficked to relatives. 1979-80, Irene divorced William Kyle Riley, who almost immediately married Mary Lynn Riley. 1978 to 1986, Sascha was trafficked to family members and eventually to the Trump/Epstein enterprise, which they describe as Trump and a few other rich and powerful men who ran the entire operation. and Epstein was more of a middle manager of the operation. Sascha remembers for sure they were trafficked through the enterprise, which involved parties where illegal boxing matches, sex workers of age, and children being trafficked were attended by the rich and powerful. They were trafficked as young as 6 or 7 to family members and may have been brought to parties around that time, but definitively remembers the parties starting around age 10. Around 1981 to 87, Sascha was trafficked within the Trump/Epstein ring. And now a more thorough breakdown. 1981-1982, Sascha recalls that their first interaction with Trump was at one of these parties, which took place at some sort of barn-type location. Trump apparently wanted to kill someone at the party, and the people running the party said, no, this is not that type of party. Instead, they offered for him to kill some puppies because they needed to get rid of them anyway. Sascha said they were made to watch, and Trump would kill the puppies and watch for Sascha's reaction. He snapped one's neck, cut one open, and watched it bleed out, drowned one by holding it underwater, made Sascha watch him harm the puppy, and look to see his reaction. Sascha was around 8 to 9 years old. They said Trump assaulted them after this, and that the puppy torture was a precursor to assault. Sascha says that Trump wanted to make the experience as brutal as possible. He seemed to try to figure out the most traumatic experience to destroy someone at the highest potential possible. Sometime later, he had a girl named Patricia killed in front of Sascha and then proceeded to assault Sascha after they were tortured by watching their friend be tortured and murdered. Then,
the good part about this is, I told you, we're not going to sleep on Epstein. They can throw whatever they want to throw at us to make us feel dehumanized, desensitive us, to make us get comfortable with bad. They want you to get comfortable with bad and the things that come with that and how those things occur. But I'm here to tell you, oh, but God. Because we definitely don't have to find ourselves in no position like that. But when we say, oh, but God, he still is in control. That man is talking about things nobody else can talk about because you all wasn't there. He was. But I'm going to tell you something. He better be somewhere in a damn ditch or a dense place of under the ground or on the other side of earth. Because what he said and what he's spitting is ether. And it's either going to get you alive or unalive. And then what story you gonna tell then? Do something with the information you have today. Let me say that again. This goes for my No Filters family. Do something with the information that you have today. Because tomorrow this information I might not even be there. If you got to save it, if you got to share this video, if you got to download it to your phone directly, do something with the information that you have today. This will allow you to understand that yet we sit around with information and do nothing. We don't pass it on. We don't give it to no one. We don't benefit from it. So when I tell you to do something with the information that you learned today, not just here, but just period. Do something with the information you learned today. Don't just sit and soak in regularness as you do every day. Do something with that information. You never knew what you could know what is what. But the fact that you would sit around and don't inform nobody, or you would sit around and don't take heed yourself. This is where we're lacking. This is where we're not thinking, family. And this is where we got to hold ourselves accountable and say, oh, look, what are we doing with the information that we know today? Because if you don't do nothing with that information, then you just wasted your ears, your breath, your body, everything that says you want to help somebody with what the stuff you have for yourself. Do something with the information that you learned today. And I mean that in a general statement, as general possible. Do something with the information you have today. Do not sit on it, yank on it. Do something with it. Pass it along. Note to self for every day. But do something with the information that you've learned today. As always, fam, you know what the level is. There's only one way to do it and one way to do it only. That's right here, Monday through Friday with your boy Dilla T. Truly, I appreciate you, family, as always. Truly appreciate you and your family pulling up, making sure that you know what it is, how we read the headlines in between the lines, to making sure that we hear the informed, understand, and be aware that if it walk like a duck, quack like a duck, damn it, it's a duck. And we not calling it nothing else. Truly, as always, family, I appreciate you taking time out to listen and learn. Understanding that the information that you learn today, we need to make sure that we pass it on to where this family and that our love and that our lives become closer, stronger than ever. Because yet the devil is at work, and yet he's using people like Trump to determine what the conclusion of what your life gonna be on this earth. So as always, fam, I truly appreciate you taking time to make sure that when you come in, you get you something to eat, you get you something to drink, you get you something to smoke if that's what you do. Because you see the raffle, you see the cards, you see the super chat, you see the cash out. There's nothing but one woman, one man gonna win a No Filters Classic hoodie of your choosing of any color. Signed by your boy Dilla T, sponsored by Nene Love Savvy TV in the building. Understanding, family, as always, I truly appreciate you, and I want you to know I love you. And I want you all to be safe. Definitely understand that. You see the title, and there's only one way to see it. You in here with your boy Dilla T, my fam. And this is what? No Filters. Good night, family. Y'all have a good, wonderful, safe weekend. God bless. Be safe. Good night.